we want to know if you thought of anything that that fits in that Venn diagram where fancy and trash overlap.
I thought of two. Two came to mind immediately. One is tax evasion.
Right? Yeah, that's good. What's up, Airheads? We're back once again.
Trae.
Okay, don't hit. Listen, what y'all don't know is we're at the end of an hour plus long recording session where we've been at each other's throat a little bit, but it was all in fun. You're about to hear that recording session in mere moments. We are here in the virtual Airstream studios. It's Puttin on Airs. I'm Trae. That's Joe. Joe, you hitting today?
I'm hitting dude, I'm hitting too hard. As you'll hear later in the episode, I invented a new drink.
So
and
he did invent a new drink, and he did his damn best to name it. And we don't want to spoil the name, but I feel like it kind of worked out. You guys are going to understand all this very shortly when you hear this wonderful interview we did with our lovely guest this week, Kate Willett. Joe, tell them about our guest.
Kate Willett has been on my radar for a long time. We followed each other on Twitter, and it's one of those weird things I was telling her where, like, we have so many mutual friends and we're always talking about each other that it kind of blows my mind when we finally meet in person. She's been a mutual friend of mine and Josh Gondelman's for a long time, so she's been on my radar. She's written for the Stephen Colbert show. I mean, her pedigree absolutely crushes me and Trae's pedigree, and she lives up to it. She is awesome. She is sweet, and she has a new special. She mentions it later, but I'm going to mention it now. She has a new special called Loopholes that is available right now on Amazon and Apple TV that you should all check out, and you should also all follow her on social media, which I will be tagging. If you follow Puttin on Airs or Corey Forrester or Trae, hopefully if he can deign to retweet something that I send him, you will see her social media. But we had a great episode with Kate. We introduced a new segment. It's, we don't have guests on this show a lot, and people often feel one way or the other, like, we loved them, or we just want to hear you guys. We came up with a new system that I call, hold on, the Fancy Five, right? The Fancy Five questions, so we could stay on theme. Kate is the first person that ever answered them, which means that she set the precedent for all other guests. I think it was a fucking great episode. It was so awesome to have her. And before we get into Kate's interview, thank you all so much for your continued patronage of this show, for sending us emails at puttinonairs@gmail.com, and for liking, subscribing, downloading, and telling all your friends. And without further ado, let's get fancy with Kate Willett. What do you say?
Here we go. To it. All right, here we are. We told you about Kate. Kate's here. Hey, Kate.
Hey.
So, we put together, Corey spearheaded the effort to put together some fun little
You didn't have to give me
questions
full credit, but I do appreciate it.
That what we hope are fun little questions that are on theme for this show, and that we might even make like a little consistent segment out of it. So this is sort of a pilot episode situation in a way, like a test run, no pressure.
Okay, I'll try my best. But
before we get to that, though, I think it's only fair to establish a little bit of groundwork and background here and everything. You're a comedian, but where are you from, and generally how fancy of a person are you?
So I am originally from the suburbs of Southern California. And
what part of Southern California?
So I grew up in Northridge, which is the valley, San Fernando Valley.
I live in Burbank.
It was, I grew up there in the 90s, and it was, a working class area. Not too fancy. And then we moved to Santa Clarita Valley.
Oh, that's where them zombies was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Which is kind of, it's very suburban. It's really white, especially where I grew up. And I would say that area has a lot of people who want to pretend to be fancy.
They put on airs, would you say?
They have McMansions up there. Yes, that's definitely true.
So, I think class wise, my family was pretty middle class, not upper middle class, not poor, but just right in the middle,
Where no one gives a shit about you. That sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. And no qualification for any kind of
right.
social programs.
Yeah.
But at the same time, still struggling.
Yeah.
And
Also
born with no advantages and
an
can't
endangered
get any.
species at this point. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Sorry if I've got this totally wrong, but you said you were in the Northridge in the 90s. Is that where that earthquake happened? That big earthquake?
Yeah.
Is that why y'all left? Was the earthquake? Or,
exactly.
Yeah, it was. Look at me knowing stuff.
Well, no way. But during the earthquake, like, or after the earthquake, our house was like, part of it was demolished, but the other part was not demolished. So we lived in the like non-demolished part for a long time. And that was probably the least fancy.
I feel like if your house can only get half demolished, then it's a pretty nice house. You know what I mean?
For people that don't know that are listening, like that was it's called the Northridge quake, right? Or Northridge earthquake. So that's where you lived, and that was like the last big one out here, right? The last big one they had in Southern California that was like pretty legitimately bad. So you were living there when it happened.
We were a couple miles from the epicenter. Like, you know, almost every house on our block was like partially destroyed. And that was the least fancy that we've ever been, I would say, because
living in rubble, not particularly fancy.
Yeah, for quite a while. You know,
living in rubble don't hit.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and then it was also like during the earthquake, my dad had pre-earthquake. My dad had a pretty extensive booze collection, and it all broke. So our house just reeked of alcohol like forever after that. And there was like this is disgusting, but there was just a ton of like bugs and rats that came in through the holes. We had some sort of animal died under the house, and there was a maggot problem for a while. I think that's what made my parents be like, finally, we got to hurry up and move pretty quickly.
Yeah, you're right. This does seem like the least fancy part of your life. Now you're bringing maggots and rats and rubble into the equation. It's like you grew up in Mogadishu or something. Is what it sounds like.
Hey, for people just listening, one of the weirdest jinxes in the world just happened. As you said, my father had an extensive booze collection. I literally had my shaker up, shaking a fucking drink, which I've never done on this show. Okay, let's all vape.
We vape throughout the show. Let's
vape together. Yeah,
yeah, let's all vape together.
So I mean, so you had like a regular middle class upbringing basically in Southern California, and that was standard for the school you went to and all that stuff. Do you guys take trips in the summer and shit like that? Like, where'd you go to? Like, did you ever go to Paris or like Europe or any of that sort of thing? Or
didn't go to Europe. I did go to Europe when I was in college. I studied abroad. So, you know, I think that like class wise, my family until I was probably 9 or 10 was like doing okay. And then they got hit with like some pretty serious medical stuff, the earthquake, and then all of a sudden my parents were like a little more struggling. So I would say that like my parents were really kind of obsessed with being like trying to be fancy, definitely putting on airs when I was like a little kid. You know, my mom was always like obsessed with like trying to say that she, you know, bought something from like Nordstrom. That was like, and I went to private school. I went to religious school, and then
what Catholic or what?
Catholic school.
That's fancy as fuck, dude. You got a house that took the wrath of half of a tornado or whatever the fuck, and you went to Catholic school and you studied abroad. Like all these, I mean, you know, you got it in you, but like that's exactly like your mom sounds exactly like my mom. Like my mom grew up really, really poor. Like she didn't have nothing. And the very second that was not the case, like she, you know, got at, like she went to nursing school on a scholarship or whatever. She all of a sudden was like, I'm going to live the exact opposite life, even if I just have to like change my vocabulary or whatever. Like this is something I don't even know if I've told on this show, but this is how my mom, if she's talking about HBO, right? Like, I'll be like, mom will be like, have you seen that program? Blah, 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 blah. And I'll be like, this is current day. I'll be like, what's it on? She goes, home box office. Like she calls it home fucking box office.
Yeah, which is a flex because it's not TV. Like
It's right.
poor people have TV, but it's not TV. It's HBO. Like that branding got to her in the 80s and it still sticks right. No, my mama's the exact opposite. So everybody listening at this point knows all, but like my mama's a pillbilly lunatic. And so like she at certain points after I became a grown up and got a real job and shit on some Christmases and stuff, I would try to like buy my mama nice things every now and then. And my sister would get like mad at me for it. Like I'd buy her like a cashmere sweater or something like that. And my sister would just be like, she's just going to line a goddamn cat box with that thing. She don't know what cashmere is. What the fuck you doing? Like you wasting your goddamn money. She don't know none of that shit, you know? So yeah, it was the exact opposite experience. But except where you said until you were 9 or 10, things were pretty good. And then it sort of fell apart. That's actually exact same experience for me, except it wasn't an earthquake and medical problems. It was opioids and NAFTA is what happened in my hometown but when I was like 9 or 10, but it was the same thing. And that's when the fall off happened, except, you know, we were already we fell off from a much lower position into just the depths of, you know, hell. But anyway, it's not about me. I'm glad you're here.
I was wondering, what states did you grow up in?
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yeah, state of depression. Poverty. General state of poverty and depression. Yes. Rural Tennessee, middle of nowhere, like no traffic lights, no McDonald's, no, you know, like tiny little rural town. But before NAFTA, it was propped up by this big Oshkosh Bagosh factory. And my family owned a bunch of small businesses in town, like
it was actually only Oshkosh before it came to Salina, and then someone goes, Oshkosh, by gosh, and they were like, that sounds fucking great.
Yeah, I've always said Oshkosh Bagosh, the most whimsically named corporation to ever murder an entire community in the name of greed, because yeah, that's what happened. But yeah, my family owned, and like I had a grandma that had a deli. My Uncle Tim had, my grandma owned the diner, my Uncle Tim owned the deli, my Papa owned the car lot, my dad owned the video store in town. We're all these like small business owners and shit. And then when the factory went out of town, all those businesses failed. People got sick, people got on pills, my mama went to jail, yada yada. Just like things just went smooth to shit, which again, everybody listens knows the story.
Oh yeah, they're sitting there like,
if you had met me at a party within 8 minutes, you would know this story too. So it's just, it's like, did I mention I'm poor white trash?
Yeah, when Trae meets you at a party, he goes, "Hi, I'm Trae. My life is good now, but hey, let me depress you for 5 minutes on why it's kind of unique that it is."
Yeah,
which I like the story. I like it. You know, I know all the beats. I know all the tags to throw in.
Yeah, it's a fun origin story. But anyway, so where'd the performative part come in for you? Like, you know, how'd you end up talking into a microphone on stage in front of a room full of strangers? You do theater and shit like that when you were growing up? Or
I did theater. Yeah. I was a weird little theater kid. Yeah, I was a weird little theater kid, and started stand up in my 20s. After
what age?
I think the first time I ever did stand up, I was 26.
Okay, I was 24 when I started. Corey's one of those freaks that started like in high school. Like
I wish that was me. I wish.
Me too. I've always said that too.
Yeah, but did you go to college, Kate?
I did go to college.
See, I wish I was y'all. I wish I was y'all, because in my opinion, like the thing is, the only advantage that I had on y'all when y'all started stand up was that I had 7 years of stage presence under my belt. But I had nothing to talk about. Now, once I figured out what I should be talking about, it's like, oh my God, I've got 10 years of great stage presence. But like, I really wish that I'd have went to college and seen some stuff, because then my first like 4 hours of material wouldn't just be like, is this a dick wart or a tick? I don't know, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that was a lot of my first material was just like, you know, sex stuff that I
pussy and butt stuff.
Pussy and butt,
yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what I think that's what almost every single like newer young comic does. I mean, one of my first like good bits that worked well was talking about gaining like that. my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, like she was getting mad because she was gaining weight, but she was gaining all her weight in her butt and her boobs. So I didn't understand, because that'd be like me complaining about gaining dick weight, like if my dick got fat, like that. Was, and that was like one of my first bits that like really worked. So it's like it happened. We all do it.
That's not the bit I thought you were talking about, and I need you to tell it now. The one I thought the dick related one I thought was the dog one.
Oh no, dude. I'm embarrassed to tell that one.
It's so funny.
So I had another one.
It's way better than the one you just told.
This is barely even just a bit. But this ain't even about like every young male comic talks about their dick. This wasn't even about my dick. This is about dog dicks.
That's why it's great.
So later on, I'm gonna try every way I can to like rationalize this to Kate, because I don't want her to like lose respect for me as a comedian.
I won't lose respect for
you. Eventually, later on, I started trying to do it ironically, sort of. But from the beginning, it was like, this is just the best that I can write. And like people laughed at it drunk in bars and stuff. I had this bulldog at the time, this English bulldog. And it was literally, I just said, I don't remember exactly.
Named Dooley.
Dooley, the English bulldog. I don't remember exactly all the jokes or lines or whatever, but I know the general, the bit was, I was walking the other day, I saw him taking a shit, and he's all turtled up and I like sort of act out a dog shitting, of course, like, like hunch my bag up or whatever and act like I'm taking a shit as a dog. And I was like, and I noticed, he's really, really laying some thick cable, really throwing it down out there. And I noticed that his little red rocket, his little lipstick, his little wiener was starting to poke out while he was doing it. And then I go, and after telling this elaborate story about a dog taking a shit, I said, fellas, I've taken some good shits in my time. I ain't never shit my dick hard, boys. I ain't never shit my dick hard. That was like the biggest punchline I had.
The funny thing is, when you did it at Side Splitters and you had to be clean, you would go, I ain't ever pooped my dick hard. You'd still say dick, but you'd say poop.
Right.
And dude, that's a good fucking joke, son.
You could almost say wiener, though, too.
Yeah,
that would be
poop
good.
my wiener hard.
Dude, you ain't got to apologize. Like, I don't, that when you started, you sort of offended me when you were like, I need to tell this in a way that Kate will still respect me. Cause like, dude, if I thought of that joke right now, I would run to do a special.
I could call. First of all, let's go back to Kate, please.
Yes,
but
please.
I caught help from people. There were comics who were more advanced than me and beyond me at that time who were
what they doing now?
Sure, but I don't know.
What they doing
I don't
now?
think they were right. I never shit my dick hard. It's not the
yes,
hype.
It is.
Well,
yes,
it
is.
I did lose respect for you, but it's only because you didn't say your dick hard. I only respect people who have done that.
Yeah, who have shit their dick
Kate,
hard.
So I sent you some questions that I hope you looked at, but it would be totally normal if you didn't, because I've definitely been sent questions for a podcast and was like, I got it. But I hope you had a chance to take a look at them. And this is what Trae was talking about earlier. This is our new format. This is the Fancy Five. How about that, huh,
okay.
Trae? That fancy five? The Fancy Five.
Nothing fancier than that particular siren. Everybody
That's
associates that with, high art, the opera, that type of thing.
I ain't got a Mozart button.
Right.
It's just the one. Yeah. So I thought these were, and again, I was going to say but Trae already gave me credit for coming up with them. So, Kate, we talked about this on a previous episode. But what is something that you thought was super fancy as a kid, only to realize when you got older, it's not that big of a deal? An example that I gave last week was like Grey Poupon and Viennetta ice cream. Do you have anything in mind?
This one was really easy for me. There's a clear answer, and that's a croissant. So.
Yeah. Really, anything French, anything French, French just equals fancy, or like in our hometowns, gay, which fancy and gay are the same thing. But yeah, French is always good for this. So,
so I grew up with my dad. So I was mentioning my parents were very middle class, but my dad was like, especially my dad was very into like trying to pretend to be fancier, and I feel like he would love to go to bakeries and order a croissant, and he would like
croissant. Did he say it that way?
A croissant. And I don't even know if that's a real French pronunciation, but it was so humiliating. I would be like, please don't say it that way. Like,
hold on. your dad was doing that when you were a kid? Like you said, you grew up in the 90s, right? So it's like the 90s, 2000s there or whatever.
They're in California, though.
I know I'm about to say, I know you're in Cal, but I feel like that's like streets ahead.
We had freedom fries.
You know what I mean? Like but doing the whole like I feel like the idea of people doing like croissant, or you ever been to Barcelona or whatever, like with, you know, like fancy white people pronouncing these things appropriately, but it sounds pretentious. I feel like that happened in the zeitgeist years later. But so my dad was on the bleeding edge of it. Yeah.
It was absolutely humiliating. It was so humiliating. I
want to take a little diversion into that topic. How do you feel about, first of all, do you speak any languages besides English?
Yeah, I am pretty good at Spanish, especially understanding it. Understanding.
So my question is, like, when it comes to that type of shit,
passable and fluent, pretty good.
Like, I can make a friend where we only speak Spanish, and it's choppy. Like, I mess up things all the time, but like I could have a connection with someone.
You can help me out right now, though. Hold on, Trae. You can help me out right now because I've been thinking about what I want to name this drink that I just made, right? Because it's tequila, and I think I made it up. Now, granted, at first it kind of just sounds like a pina colada, but then I do a twist at the end. So it's 2 shots of tequila, a full shot of lime juice, a full shot of coconut cream, right? Then you shake that together, pour it, and then top it with a little Fresca and stir it up. And what I want to call it, because it kind of tastes like a creamsicle, but if it was lime instead of the orange part. So I want to call it a hitsicle. How would I do that in Spanish?
I have no idea.
Right.
Hitsicle?
Hitsicle. Yeah. Because that's barely those. Yeah.
Or a Mexican popsicle. A Mexican popsicle. How would you say that?
What's okay. Oh, okay.
I don't even know how to say popsicle. I don't think
I have outed you on this program.
I think that, like, when I lived in Costa Rica for a little bit, and I think that they referred like, and I don't know if this is like the official like Spanish way or if this is just like a local colloquialism, but they referred to like all popsicles and ice cream as helados, which I think means like frozen. So
this is helados cho.
What about hit? Do you know like something like something?
If something's good, it's great. Like it's a banger.
Okay, well that's different because good or great is like bueno and whatever. I'm talking, but do you want that or do you want the word for hit?
The word for hit.
The word for hit, like
you got hit by a car, whatever. Just that word hit.
These tortillas are burnt.
That one I'd have to look up. I forgot that one off the top.
Well, it's all right.
He's the one that put you on the spot, not me.
Yeah. But I will say I don't think that translates. Like, I don't think the idea of being a hit is
I'm
like
sure it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of related to what I was going to. So he would try. If you told him the Spanish words for that, he'd try to do it in front of Spanish speakers, and they'd be like, "The fuck is this guy talking about?" Which is so you said.
No, I wouldn't.
Your dad, like him saying croissant in that fashion, even as a kid, you're like, "Oh God, please don't do that." And I feel like people cringe at white people when they do that all the time. But as someone who speaks another language, like, isn't there? I don't know how to balance that versus like you're supposed to try to
Chinese.
adopt the accent when you speak the language, right? Otherwise, you sound like a stupid fucking American just butchering their words. So how do you balance that? You know,
I think that there's some stuff that like you do pronounce it the original way, and then there's some stuff that just sounds like really ridiculous. Like no one says like Los Angeles. You know, I mean, not no one. People who speak Spanish,
and no one says hummus. They all say hummus.
Yeah, is it?
But
hummus?
It is hummus. Yeah. Tim Wilson. Tim Wilson told me this was Tim Wilson was on stage talking about hummus, but he said he was like, me and my wife, we were eating hummus, and someone was like, it's hummus, and he was like, God damn it, my ex-wife she was in the Israeli fucking military. He's like, it's fucking hummus. You know,
if she was from Israel, she had no choice but to be in the Israeli military.
Yeah, right. But I was just saying, like, and Tim Wilson was one of the smartest people I knew. So me thinking that it's hummus instead of hummus is based on one thing, and I choose to believe it for the rest of my life.
I remembered what it was. I looked it up, and then I remembered Pegar, which I remember thinking it was really funny when I learned it the first time. That's
Pegar.
Pegar.
That's it.
Yeah.
Pegar helados. Pegar helados.
So I mean, that would mean like punching, you know, but
that's fine.
Yeah.
This hits you in the throat, baby.
Knew he was going to say that. Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. I'm not that
It
predictable.
does.
Or gold they are too. So yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Pigarlados, Cho. There you go.
There you go. We got it.
For your name for your drink over there.
All right.
But
next.
you know what reminded me? Oh, this was what I was thinking of. You know what reminded me of like how to describe the exact sort of class position of my family? Have you ever seen a cruise?
A cruise? You mean like a carnival cruise?
Yeah. So
I went on what you meant immediately.
Okay.
I went on a cruise once, and I didn't go until I was in college. This wasn't something we did growing up.
Where was this cruise at that you went on?
I went on a cruise in Mexico because my friend's boyfriend works for Princess Cruise Lines. And
Princess Cruise Lines.
Yeah, it was so, it was really cheap. We only had to pay like $200 each to go or something like that because we got a huge discount. And my family never did this growing up. But when I went on this cruise, it was so cringy because it was just like all these people who are like truly middle class that are like, I'm going to pretend to be a rich person. And so people would walk around in like cheesy ass ball gowns.
Yeah. Okay. I think cruise is also a good answer for the question number one. Because when I was a kid, I was like, my only knowledge of like a cruise was like the Titanic or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when we went on a cruise, I was like really excited, and I was like, God damn, how can we even do this? And we on this cruise, and it's just like, I mean, if you've ever been to Vegas, it's just the slot area, but on water.
So, exactly. Yeah.
Following off of that. And I want you to know this is coming from a very, very like a low class white trash person or whatever. So no offense intended by any of this, but I had the same experience as Corey. I thought cruises were fancy because of Titanic or whatever. I was like, I can't believe I'm going on a cruise. First time I went on a cruise. And on that cruise, me, the fucking trailer baby I am, I was like, this is a goddamn trash boat.
Exactly.
Like, this is fucking nothing but.
No,
so
that's what I mean. That is
right. I know. So, but you were talking about your family being middle class and all this stuff, and then you're like, you know what? I compare us to a cruise, and in my head, I hear that, and I'm like, God damn, cruises.
But you still have to have money to go on it.
Well, you have to have money. Like that's the thing. It's like my family had enough money to
pretend to be richer than they are,
but there was that kind of trashy element of needing to pretend to be rich. Like I have at this point in my life, like I'm downwardly mobile. Like I'm a professional artist, and I have way less financial security than my parents who owned a home. But I am.
Well, but
sorry, Mom, if you're listening. Sorry, Mom and Dad. I'm not. Like they
are actual fans of the show. They write in all the time at putonairs@gmail.com.
I guess from having like lived in New York and like San Francisco and stuff, I've let go of some of those like really trashy signifiers. If that makes sense. Like my parents, their families, they had, some people had money, some people didn't, but there was also like a trashy element of like someone was always going to jail. Like a lot of DUIs, and it was just like right on that border.
DUI don't discriminate.
I'm starting to doubt your self-diagnosis of middle class a little bit.
Yeah,
and I mean that in an endearing way. Meaning like,
I don't think y'all hit that hard. Is what Trae saying.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
because you're saying a lot of things that it's true for me too, and for him.
Well, because the thing is like, I don't think that my family ever had trouble like putting food on the table or anything like that. And we did get to go on vacation sometimes. And like, there was just, I mean, like there was a level of, struggling that honestly, like I didn't even realize that I didn't have to contend with until I met people who had much more difficult upbringing, because we had the basics, like we had that stuff, but in terms of like the things that like rich people like the like cultural aspect, my family didn't have that part, and at the times when they did have more money, they really wanted to pretend to, but like they weren't good at it. And like one really concrete way is my dad would say the word classy all the time. He would describe things as classy.
This is classy,
which is something that nobody who is classy would ever do.
It's like an alcoholic saying, I'm not drunk. Like you're trying so hard, like you're projecting. It's like the three fingers pointing back at you situation. I love that. When you think of fancy, what actor, past or present, by the way, comes to mind. Someone that just like from the, my brain immediately goes to the golden era of Hollywood. But like, I don't know. What about you?
I think there too. Like my like gut hit off of it was Audrey Hepburn.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Perfection. Just that poster of her in Breakfast at Tiffany's is exactly, we were talking about my mom earlier, that Holly Golightly, aside from the, I guess, prostitution or whatever, is like, that's who my mom was like, I'm going to be Audrey Hepburn. You know what I mean? And and my mom looks a lot like Audrey Hepburn, like, but she's like that little black dress, the simplicity, that's who I'm going to be. And so I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's hell, that's the number one contender already.
Yeah, I was like, I'm glad that this is new questions, because I was like, oh, probably everyone has said that.
No.
Yeah, but I think that probably will happen going forward in the future, because, like, I mean, do you guys feel like that still even exists? I'm sure there's a couple examples, right? But I feel like the whole culture has changed. Where like
when we go forward, example, I'm going to send the question.
Hugh Grant, right? Like Hugh Grant was like, his thing was sort of being that, but it was also sort of like playing against that type.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? He like he
was a playboy.
Yeah,
right. But but also like kind of a ne'er-do-well and got into trouble.
Yeah, he was just British, like, dude. That's why he's he was just British. Like he was Robert Downey Jr. British.
Right. But I'm saying, are there Audrey Hepburn's now? I know they all go to the Met Gala and they dress up as fucking traffic cones and all the shit that they do. But like they, like, I don't know.
I think
are they still a thing? Like people who still are really like that consistently?
Yeah, I don't know about like, really current versions. I mean, like when I think of people like Clooney and Brad Pitt, I think of them and I put them in their roles, and so I think of Clooney as Daniel Ocean, and I'm like, fancy fucking guy.
Yeah,
and
but I don't think he is though.
He's not, but it doesn't matter. It's like the way that he's like that. His head, he still looks like a classic Bogart era actor.
For sure.
So I still go there with him, but I'm with you that like most of these answers are going to reflect what Kate just said, and I would say Audrey Hepburn would come up a lot. So Kate, now that you're here and you're helping us test run this, should I include in the questions going forward past answers have been and then include Audrey Hepburn, or should I get a Family Feud buzzer and hit it when someone says something that's already been said and then they have to come up with another one?
Ooh, I like the second idea. That's fun. Well, you know what I was thinking about too when you said that is, like, I think we know too much about people now.
Yes, there's no allure.
Like, I was thinking about, okay, because like
Bogart was probably a regular guy.
Yeah, who would be like the contemporary kind of answer to that? And I'm thinking like Gwyneth Paltrow. She's like a Hollywood nepo baby, has enough money to put into like all of these things with her appearance and her mansion and stuff like that. But because it is 2024, she's also running a wellness company and talking about enemas.
And she was on Hot Ones. And she was on Hot Ones. Like,
yeah, and there's no mystery. Like these people have all turned themselves into a brand which has elements that are corny as hell.
Yeah, right. Someone who comes to my mind, maybe this is just me, but in a similar like vein of thinking, like I remember like seeing a clip from SNL where someone was doing an impression of Timothy Chalamet, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, that's how Timothy Chalamet is? Because like I sort of put him, even though he's in his 20s and they're all dumbasses, still I put him into that. I thought he was fancy as hell.
Yeah,
right. So I thought he'd be
Walken's up there,
prim, proper, and all this shit. And then I saw like Chloe Feynman or whatever do an impression of him, and he's all fucking, like all that shit. And I was like, that's how he is. And then I looked up, it's like, that is kind of how he is.
Because he was in artsy movies. So you only associated him
back
with
in
the
day,
movies.
Right, exactly. Right. People wouldn't know that. He wouldn't have social media, he wouldn't whatever. You'd only see him in his like actor state or on the red carpet in his tuxedo, and people think he was fancy when he's not. I mean, he's like a child of privilege and shit.
Yeah, but like, no, that's a good point.
He's like kind of a dumbass. He's like kind of a 20-year-old dumbass.
When my dad was a kid, John Wayne was a cowboy. Right. You know what I mean? He was a cowboy. And Humphrey Bogart, you had no reason to believe that he wasn't this brooding, smoking, staring out a window, solving a crime guy because he wasn't tweeting. You know what I mean?
And now
that's what
we
I'm
know
saying.
better.
Like that's why we love when we hear these stories of old celebrities that literally all the story has to be is them doing something normal. And we're like, oh, can you believe Marlon Brando shopped for apricots? You know? And like, that's it.
Can you believe Nancy Reagan was the biggest dick sucker in Hollywood?
Yeah, the throat goat, baby. Dude, you think that new Dennis Quaid biopic of Ronald Reagan, you think they're going to cover Nancy Reagan's throat goat status? Because I'm assuming they probably won't. You know,
I feel like they won't. I feel like they won't. Oh man,
it's a shame because that's ignoring her legacy. You know,
dude, it's
Ronald
crazy.
Reagan was another one. You know, like I think it would be very hard to do Ronald Reagan now because people would know that he was out to lunch, you know, like
right.
Because there's
not
just
the ones that love him though.
I was about to say,
not the ones that love him. Dude, my dad is a huge Reagan guy.
They just ignore it.
I mean, because I think our current president is probably a little out to lunch.
Agreed.
Yeah, but he gets shit for it all the time.
He does. Yeah, right.
But I don't think Reagan did Reagan. I don't know.
Twitter didn't exist though. Twitter didn't exist. Like if Twitter existed, yes, Reagan would have gotten shit for it. You know what I mean? But like it was a running bit, like the jelly beans thing. Like I knew about it when I was a kid. It was like, yeah, Reagan was fucking demented or whatever, you know. But yeah, no, that Audrey Hepburn, fucking great answer.
All right, y'all listen, we all got bad habits, you know. I've had every bad habit I think a person can imagine, just about. And you know, I've had the type that's the kind you think you're doing so well going without it, and then you're out with your friends, they're all reaching for their own version of the bad habit. You feel that urge all of a sudden, you don't want to be left out. You want to ask, can I borrow that? Let me have that. Can I have that? Let me bum one of those, you know. But what if I was to tell you there's a better alternative that helps you kick that bad habit in an enjoyable way, something that you can take out with you, you can enjoy yourself? We're talking about Fume, the sponsor of this here episode. Fume is an award-winning flavored air device. Flavored air is not the same thing as vaping, just so you know. If vapor was compared to like sticky soda syrup, Fume cores are closer to herbal teas. Fume has lots of delicious flavors to choose from, like crisp mint and orange vanilla. With flavored air, you can satisfy your oral fixation through a passive diffusion system that utilizes no electronics, no vapor, no combustion. Fume draws the flavor to your mouth. Fume fills the void ditching a bad habit can leave behind. You still have something you can reach for and put in your mouth, but it's not a vape. Fume is not a vape. There's no vapor. You can use it anywhere you want to. There's no nicotine. It's not addictive. They got non-toxic flavors. This is a guilt-free alternative. There's no batteries. You don't have to charge it. You don't need another charger. You don't have to worry about none of that. It looks awesome. It's got a weighted, high-quality design. It's built with all these little things you can fidget with, which helps you when you're feeling the anxiety caused by your bad habit. It's built to help you out. Fume continuously invest in third-party studies to ensure the safety of their products. They care a lot about it, and Fume is backed by doctors in this country. Cho, you've tried it. Tell them more.
Oh my God, dude. Have I tried it? I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. I love the way it tastes. I'm not just doing a monologue from 10 things I hate about you right now, by the way. I am telling you the truth, baby. And let me tell you something. My new favorite flavor that they got going on, which surprised me, because in normal regards, I wasn't about menthol. I usually only like my mint when it's combined with chocolate in an ice cream form. But the crisp mint, my God, when you're sucking on it, it feels like you're making out with Emma Frost from X-Men, which really excited the 12-year-old in me, my friend. I can tell you that much right now. Absolutely fantastic. Love it. Helps you get in the good habit, knocks out that bad habit. It's fantastic. Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be the next success story for a limited time. Use our code POA to get a free gift with your journey pack. Head to tryfume.com. That's TRYFUM.com. Use the code POA or scan the QR code on the screen to get a free gift with your order today. Crisp mint, I'm telling you, but also don't sleep on the orange vanilla. All right, baby. There it is. Yeah. Fellas, blink if you haven't purchased a Father's Day gift yet. I'm blinking at my wife, by the way, because I know that she hasn't. Yeah, we thought so. So today's episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Maybe your pops has had the bush since the 70s. You know, the little Tom Selleck going on down there, and that's okay. Our friends at Manscaped have crafted a total package for his special day, whether it's for the boys downstairs, his beard, or even the best pair of underwear out there. I can confirm I'm wearing them right now. Manscaped has all his bases covered. Head over to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping with code POA20 from daddy to zaddy. That's right, baby. Trust Manscaped. Look, man, here's the deal. I kind of want to talk mess about my dad on like some funny grooming story, but my dad is kind of like, he didn't really have a lot of hair. I got more chest hair than he does, but he's got a lot of nose hair, like a ton of nose hair. And I don't understand dads, like they'll just be having nose hair and you know they see it when they look in the mirror, or they don't look in the mirror anymore because they're like, my life ended 20 years ago. Why would I face it now? But he had a lot of nose hair, and I gave him the little nose hair thing from Manscaped, and he absolutely loved it. And for me, it's so easy to clean up my pubic area. And also, you know, some of y'all have noticed my beard. It may have changed colors, but it looks great. It's shaped amazing. And that's because of my friends over at Manscaped, because they've got the guards that I don't have to fool with. I just click them in and all that stuff. And you remember that old beard trimmer your dad's been using since you were a kid? Well, it is time for an upgrade. The face shaver that's a must-have for the smooth finish daddy loves the Manscaped Handyman. Powerful and compact, this face shaver isn't just for the home use. It's perfect for quick touch-ups on the go, because we all know that your dad is a traveling salesman, just like in the 70s. Its precision blade ensures a clean shave every time, making an essential tool for any dad's grooming routine. With summer just around the corner, the Performance Package 5.0, by the way, excuse me, I made a mistake. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the perfect gift for him. Designed with hairy daddies in mind, it features the signature lawnmower 5.0 for all his grooming needs. The boxers, by the way, they were crafted with a simple mission: to be the most comfortable boxers a man can buy. What makes these bad boys different, you might ask? The jewel pouch, a dedicated space that cradles your stones in place, a perforated performance fabric for extra breathability. My goodness. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code POA20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And please use the code POA20. Never forget where you came from, if you know what I mean. Happy Father's Day from Manscaped. Skew! Great answer.
All right, let me ask this next one, Cho, just so I'm doing something. So
you're fine, baby.
All right, Kate, if you were given $100 million right now, but you have to spend it all like Brewster's Million style, so that means you can't invest in nothing, you can't give it to charity or, you know, invest in your community or whatever. You just got to spend it on bullshit, basically. How would you go about that? What luxuries would you buy yourself? What would you do with $100 million if you couldn't be a good person with it?
I think I would travel to like every country in the world.
There you go.
That's
or at least all the ones
and not pack luggage.
At least all the ones that are not like an active
war zone, or won't like kill you with rocks for having your collarbone exposed or whatever.
How are you going to get a tan?
Even I would just cover my collarbone so I could
right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
You know, I've been to the Middle East and I covered my hair and all that, you know, but
you've been to the Middle East?
Yeah, I went to Eastern Turkey. Turkey is a mix of Asia and Europe. It's like right on the border. And I went to Eastern Turkey, and that was very like, you know, you had to cover up if you're a woman. I don't think it was the law.
Is that close to where Casablanca is, or is that Morocco?
Morocco,
are they close?
Right? Casablanca's Morocco, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know the difference.
Ignore him. So you went to East Turkey. And
I mean, I just have a huge curiosity.
That's the street my papa lived on.
About the East Turkey Street. I don't know. I think it would be really interesting to just actually see what everywhere is like. And then if houses are allowed, I would definitely buy multiple houses. Although I guess you could spend 100 million pretty fast buying multiple.
Okay, I guess because like I put in the question, no investments. So I guess in this scenario, you can buy a house, you can't sell it. Yeah, you can't sell it.
You have to be just for you, or otherwise it's an investment.
I was visiting. I went to see the eclipse in Hot Springs, Arkansas.
How cool is that?
It was amazing, and there was a lady that we stayed with there and she was a teacher. Like she wasn't a wealthy person, but she had an extra house just for parties and guests because property was so cheap when she got it that she could have a whole extra party house. And I would love to do that, to have just an extra house. That would rule.
Dude, we've thought about that. There's a church across the street from us that apparently, which is wild because I live in the Bibleist belt of the Bible, but there's a church across the street from us that like, it'll be a church for a year. And then all of a sudden, I guess they hate the pastor or people stop coming. And all of a sudden the building's up for sale. Right. And then because it's a church, another person wanting to start a church will buy it naturally. And I keep telling Amber, my wife, I'm like, baby, I don't know when I'm going to have that much money to just say, fuck it, we're buying a church. Yeah. But if those times co-align that place is up for sale and I have that kind of money, we're buying it and we're just having all our parties over there and then we can clean it up later. And that's a luxury that would be so amazing. Is just we party and then like, I mean, of course, if I had that much money, we could just pay someone to clean, but still it's like, here's the party house. And then we just walk across the street and go to sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. To me, that would be amazing.
That's insane.
And I also think that it would be awesome to just try all the really fancy restaurants in New York. Like,
the Michelin star ones for sure.
Yeah,
how long do you think? You know, $100 million. I said $100 million, which is like, you know, I guess when I would like, that number came to mind because of Austin Powers, like the $100 million. But I might should change it because like $100 million. Like, don't get me wrong, if you give me $100 million, I'm gonna be happy. But it ain't like what $100 million used to be. How long do you think you would blow through it if you were doing that?
If I couldn't invest in anything.
Yeah, you couldn't invest at all.
You know, okay, here's the thing. Like if I really had $100 million, I would probably just try to not work for as long as possible and not go
which would be your whole life. Yeah.
Which is like, I mean, I guess I would just leave it in a bank account or whatever, but I'd probably like figure out like, okay, how much could I spend per year for the next 50 years to just never have to work again. And that was, that would
it's
probably
more than $1 million. You know what I mean? Like, so you got $1 million a year salary for the next million.
And once you hit 65, and once you hit 65, that number should increase exponentially. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, well, you know, because like, I feel like, I don't know, if you were 85 and lost everything, you're funny. Somebody'd take you in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be all right.
It would just be really, it would be really amazing to not have to ever labor again if I didn't want to. Like, I would still do shows and stuff like that, but just like all the random like side bullshit, I just wouldn't do anything.
But now, like, whatever that screenplay that you've been wanting to write, but you're too busy doing shows and trying to make money, you would write it and you would, you know, do all that experimental shit.
Yeah. So I honestly think I would be semi-responsible with it because I just don't. So I think it would take me my whole life. Like I'm in the same way. Yeah.
I'm the same. I don't like big things.
Me and him actually have a name for that. That philosophy you described. We call it the one good lick doctrine, which is like if you hit one good lick, like a big enough lick, which I don't know if that even makes sense to you coming from South Carolina. So you know what I mean by
that? It would be like you have a television show that goes 7 seasons and it gets syndicated. That's one good lick. You don't have to do anything ever again.
Then the idea is just to only do things that hit for you creatively or otherwise, and not do anything else for the rest of it, you know, and I would not worry about it.
Craziest short film every year. Like every year I would try to make it more insane.
The travel thing, obviously you traveled a lot, and I guess that's at the root of this because I generally consider myself a very open-minded and progressive person for the most part. And it's like people that come from any other country and come into this country, I'm like, hell yeah, brother, move in right next door. I love you. It's fine. But I'm from an extremely small town, and it's like, people in extremely small towns are racist and xenophobic and shit. Don't get me wrong, but they're also just phobic of like
different
big places, right? Like the city. Like people in my hometown are like afraid of like Nashville or whatever, let alone Los Angeles.
Oh my God.
Like,
the most,
even though
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, you go ahead. It's your show.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the most canceled I ever got on Twitter. The most canceled I ever got is people were. I responded to some, claim that there was like a ton of crime in New York. And I tweeted like, hey, I regularly walk home at 3 or 4 a.m. after shows and I feel completely safe.
Right.
New York is very safe. There's always people out, but that was the thing that made people the most mad. And there was all these people from like small town America that are like, "Fuck you want everyone to get raped," and
Well, dude, when I lived there in 2015, and I wouldn't have moved there were I not a fairly open-minded person. Like comedy, and me and Trae, well, maybe not Trae. Trae had a gay uncle. I didn't have the luxury, but I've
not
always
fancy.
Yeah,
fancy.
Yeah, we're not all so lucky. So, but I started doing stand up at 16 in the South, but because I started doing stand up, I was introduced to people of all colors, race, religions. I used to like open for the cross-dressing shows and shit like that. And immediately it was just like I was the most open-minded person ever. But still in 2015, when I went to move to New York, I'd never really been anywhere except for my hometown and a couple other places. All I knew about New York was shit that I saw from like Law and Order SVU. And I too thought I was going to be raped all the time. And ironically, I get on a plane and everyone is telling me, please don't go, dude. Please don't go. You're going to get killed. You're going to get killed immediately. And I was like, I think I'll be fine. I get on the plane to go to New York, right? I land in New York and find out that there was a terrorist attack in Chattanooga, Tennessee, 15 minutes from my house that day, right?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And I was like, damn, like, what about the irony? Then I get to New York only to find out that, like you said, now I'm a white male, so it's different, but like the safest I've ever felt ever. Like I would just be hammered drunk at 4 a.m. walking through wherever the fuck, and I'm like, I felt safe because nobody was doing some shit. And like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Normally I don't like seeing cops, but like there were cops and stuff that just were, it was like, hey, if some shit pops off, that guy's going to do something, So like, yeah, I'm with you.
So
sorry.
I living in Burbank, California, right, which is very neighborhoody, very idyllic. My kids walk to school every day at Walt Disney Elementary School, all that shit. But talking to my Mima back home, she thought I was going to get stabbed to death on the way to the grocery store every single day, right? And I was always like, that's ridiculous, that's absurd. But yet, even me, like the first time after I moved here that I went down to like Santa Monica, right? But the first time I went down there and did a show at West Side Comedy Theater in Santa Monica, which is in like an alleyway.
Yeah,
after the show, I had so there's parking garages along this alleyway, and I was parked a little way down, and I was like asking the other comics, I was like, "Am I cool to like walk down this alleyway? It's like 10:45 p.m.
Like,
and they were like,
off.
"What the fuck are you talking about?" You know what I mean? Like, but I still have that in me, and also I'm not gonna lie, I don't like the Lord. I don't like gods and the places that are like very God-y. And I all gods to me are almost the same in that they don't hit. So like
that blue one with a bunch of arms, I'm fine with.
Yeah, no, the elephant ones and whatever they got in India seem pretty cool, I guess.
I'm all right with
them. My fear of big unfamiliar places as a small town person, coupled with my fear of like hardcore religious people, makes me kind of afraid of
everywhere.
Well, not everywhere, but we're talking about the Middle East. You're like, no, I'll just go and cover up and it'll be fine. Everybody's lovely. And I'm sure that's true.
People have told you so many times that you look Middle Eastern.
I wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm just worried, like, I don't know.
You can just throw some dirt on your face and fit right in, buddy. Like you got the mustache, like you be all right.
What were you saying, Kate?
Oh, I have had traveling experiences where I was scared. I was scared in Guatemala. I went to Pana Hotel, and there was a guy so I was staying with this family, and I went out to bars at night, and I tried to go home, and not home, but back to the place I was staying, and they had locked me out. Because they were like, fuck this, dumb American slut thinks she can party all night or whatever.
Oh, shit.
And they
when was this?
2007.
Okay, so like way before Airbnbs, like this is just like person to person. I'm renting a place.
Yeah, it was like basically, but it was basically an Airbnb. Like
right.
it was that kind of vibe. I don't remember how I ended up staying there, but it was a lady who rented out a room in her home, and she locked me out, and I had to stay with one of the guys from the bar. Ooh. And then he wanted we were like taking drugs. There's a bunch of people, And then I was trying to just stay up all night, and then everyone went home. And this guy I don't even know if he was like dangerous or anything, but he really
was Guatemalan.
He really wanted to hook up. And I was like,
Right.
okay, what am I going to do? So I ended up I was staying in this room. He left me alone, but I like barricaded the door. And I don't even know if that was just like my fear of like being in another country and not being amazing at the language or whatever. Or just like,
well, you're a woman. You have probably have that fear here, knowing the language. If
I had to stay with some random guy in the US,
like their fears you have that I will never be able to like.
So in your head, because again, you're obviously a very experienced traveler. You're just like, look at all the great experiences I've had over the years versus that one time. So I'm not going to let that one time color my experience type of thing. That's how you look at it.
Well, I mean, I've also gotten probably a little smarter about traveling. Like just over time, I would take maybe just a different approach or something like that.
Not to victim blame, but there's been several international incidents that would never have happened had the person not been a rot brain dumbass.
So I don't know.
Not all of them, but
like I probably would have checked with that lady, for example, of like, how am I going to get in late at night or something like that, but no, I don't feel that scared. Like also like a lot of the like conceptions about safety end up being like a little different than like what the reality is. Like I went to Cuba last year. Cuba is a really safe place. It's one of the most. It's one of the.
I'm good because I want to go.
Oh, it's great. And people should go to Cuba because they really need the money. Like, we have starved them with sanctions, and one of the only ways for them to like get money is through tourism, because like the US has sanctioned not only Cuba but also other countries that trade with them, so it's very, very tough on the regular people there. So I would totally recommend, and it's cheap. It's really cheap compared to like anywhere you could travel in the US, but it's such a safe country. So safe.
How many countries have you been to?
Probably like 35 over my life.
Yeah, damn, you fancy lady. Speaking of it,
hasn't been that fancy. I mean, I know that it's a privilege to travel, but when I travel, I usually travel, pretty budget. I'll stay with people in their home, go like eat food off the street, So
no, good for you. No, I admire that, because like I said, the like small town kid in me, I still get like I'm just kind of scared of other unfamiliar or bigger places, or whatever, places that are very foreign to me. I mean, there's a lot of places I want to go to, but I've only ever been to Canada, Mexico, and the UK outside of this country. That's the only places I've ever been. So
I would imagine you could do stand up a ton of places that they would love you.
I don't know. Maybe I'd like to try it in the future. So I always think, even when me and Corey went to the UK together, and we got on a couple of stand-up shows over there, and like even there in the UK where they speak English, even there, I was like, in my head, I was like, these people, they're not even going to be able to understand the words that I'm saying. Crashed. You know what I mean? I know that, but you're acting like we didn't talk about this before. We were both worried about it. Like, we didn't think they would.
I know, but I'm saying I think that should have quelled some of that for you, because a lot of people going to your show in other countries would be expats.
I know, right? Yeah. But yes, that's what I always. I mean, I just went to Vancouver and did a show a couple months ago, and even there, I was sitting in the green. And I've been there before, and even there, sitting in the green room, I was like, "God damn, everything I got is so American. I'm not in America. They're not gonna." Right. And of course, they're like, "We know about y'all. Like everybody knows about y'all's bullshit. So you're all right to talk about your bullshit."
Well, going on with the Fancy Five, speaking of it being horrible to be a woman, who is your favorite historical figure and why?
Okay, so I was thinking about how to interpret this question. Like, do I want to, pick the person that I think is the best person, or do I want to pick like who,
or just who you're interested in?
Who is I interested in? And like, actually, on the theme of Cuba, I I really think that Fidel Castro is a very interesting person to learn about. Not saying this is an endorsement of literally everything.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Dude, John Wilkes Booth is one of my favorite characters in history, and Edwin Stanton is too. And both of them, when you really dissect them, are not entirely great people. So that's not, you interpreted the question correctly.
But there is something amazing about the fact that there was like 80 something assassination attempts on him.
Yeah.
And he beat them all.
And he could throw a fucking slider, bro. Like, he was wild as fuck.
Yeah, there was a journalist that was like, apparently he was a real ladies' man. There was like a US journalist that like interviewed him and stuff. And they ended up sleeping together. This was during, I think, Kennedy. She ended up sleeping with him, and she was like a famous Washington journalist. Like she had kind of a lot of influence in Washington, and she was like, she ended up liking him so much that she did like a back channel to try to bring peace between Cuba and the United States. And
that's
there was
good whiner.
Yeah, there's just like all this other crazy stuff. And when I went to Cuba, like I saw some of the stuff that they, pulled off the Cuban Revolution with. There's this boat called the Grandma. It's spelled Granma.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's Gramma, but Grandma. It's spelled wrong in English. And it's just this dinky little jalopy. And they put...
That's a good word.
80 dudes in there.
Yeah.
Like, I think they were coming from... What was it? I don't know. I think it was Guatemala. I can't remember, but but they sailed it and they showed up like on the shore of Cuba, jumped out, and were like, yeah, we're going to overthrow the government.
Yeah.
And they obviously failed, but so then they went into, they went like into the mountains, all spread out, and they got the peasants on their side, because like the current regime was so brutal to them, and the landlords were so brutal to them, and they ended up getting all the kind of like just basically the whole population of Cuba, almost like 90%, on the side of like overthrowing the US backed government. And they grew like really long beards, because that way, if somebody wanted, both because they like didn't, have the necessary supplies, but also because if somebody wanted to infiltrate them, they would have to start 6 months in advance to grow a beard that long.
Smart as hell. God damn.
Yeah. So
that's the best fact that has ever been said on this fucking show.
Yeah. So it was really, it's like, obviously, there was some shit that went down, but I do think that this is an example of people like beating the US, to a large extent, which is very
it's wild how many L's we took during that time, when it's like, how, like, it's so amazing that we won the Revolutionary War and then survived the Civil War, and then like helped everybody's ass out in the World Wars. And then for some reason in the 60s had so much trouble with these no account ass countries. And I don't mean that in any shit way, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we were a fucking superpower that seemed like we could take over the world, but then these tiny little places figured out our weaknesses, and we were like, we don't know what to fucking do. Unless we're fighting the British, we can't get pumped up.
Yeah, Ho Chi Minh is another one. Of David beating Goliath.
Yeah. It's a will of the people type thing. Exactly. I feel like
it's like you said, against the British,
who wants it more, right?
It's like NBA playoffs.
Like in the American Revolution, we had the will of the we were the oppressed. They were the oppressors. We had the will of the people behind us. And a lot of these other scenarios, it's the exact opposite situation, and it's hard to do. People will fight hard for their homeland and their freedom and shit. I mean, it's not just our shit. It's also like Russia and Afghanistan and everything, like Russia and Ukraine.
But the Utah Jazz couldn't do it to Michael. You know what I mean? Like, goddamn.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that is just a game, Like, this shit ain't a game to these people. But I wanted to ask you, Kate, about Cuba in particular. Like, they, it's a phenomenon, and we try to avoid politics on this show a little, because we both dabble in politics so much.
We say that phrase every show.
Yeah.
Because we end up talking about politics. But in Florida right now, there's a massive contingent of Cuban immigrants and their descendants and stuff who are hardcore conservative. And the reason they're hardcore conservative is because they fled the communist government there and hate it. So like they're like single issue voters. They don't give a fuck. They fled a communist government, so they're conservative and they'll always be conservative forever. And it's a massively important voting block in Florida. But also, like, is it like a lot of them, their families had to flee because they were like the landed gentry or the they were like the people who got guillotined in the French Revolution and shit.
They were the ones the revolution was happening again.
In Cuba, they went to Florida and, you know, became MAGA eventually 60 years later or whatever. Like, that's kind of what happened, right?
Yeah, that is what happened, at least with the first wave of Cuban immigration. So, you know, then recently, like, especially in the past few years since the pandemic, there's been a lot of, like, the pandemic really decimated the economy of Cuba. So there's like a new wave of Cuban immigrants that are not right-wing. You know, they're just like trying to come to make money and have a way to send money back to their families and stuff. But yeah, that OG group, they are pretty conservative.
Yeah, we got a buddy, Drew, who was a public defender in Miami for a while, and his boss was at the public defender's office, a gay lawyer, Cuban, who was like a hardcore Republican for the reasons
we call that hitting for the cycle.
This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. Let's talk about sex, babe. Guys, remember the days when you were always ready to go? And by go, I mean pork. You know what I mean? We all remember how it used to be. Anytime, any day, any place, you were up for it. That changes as you get older. We all know how that goes. I know how that goes, but it's okay. Now you can increase your performance. You can get that confidence back. You can return to that wiener version of yourself. It can happen. Listen up. BlueChew.com. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but it's in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. You can take these anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead to get down with your lovely wife, or you can be ready to get down whenever an opportunity comes up. And by comes up, I mean your dick. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you get approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. That's the best part of it all. It's all done on the computer there, which means no visits to the doctor's office, no more awkward wiener conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy, running into your high school librarian while you're trying to get your dick pills. None of that happens with Blue Chew, because Blue Chew's tablets are made right here in the US of A, prepared and shipped direct to your door in a very discreet package. Cho, tell them more.
Trae, do you know what my least favorite conversation is?
Wiener.
That's right. An awkward wiener conversation. A lot of people ask me, they say, Corey, does Blue Chew work? And I say, hey, now, it makes my dick harder than trying to stay sober during a podcast when you have a female guest and not make some misogynistic joke, even though you didn't know her before and didn't ask if it was okay. That's what I'm talking about. You could be missing out on the best sex of your life. With Blue Chew, men everywhere excited to see the postman, baby. That white envelope, he comes to the door. I know what time it is. My wife knows what time it is. It's time for her back to get blown out. And my back, well, I've been down in it, but I tell you what, when Blue Chew comes, it gives me the help that I need. And Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. Discover your options at BlueChew.com. Chew it and do it. We got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free. Free. I was surprised as you were when I read it. When you use our promo code POA at checkout, all you got to do is pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code POA. To receive your first month for free, visit BlueChew.com for more detail and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast and getting us the rock hardest wiener you ever done had. Skew!
Get you a new dick.
Get you a new dick. Why wouldn't you?
Hey, we got one question left in the Fancy Five, Kate. Here it goes. So one thing we did on the show, a lot of a recurring theme of this show, recurring theme of this show over the months has been what I call the Venn diagram between fancy and trash, where fancy and trash overlap. Some of the classic examples from this show were like cousin fucking, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, royalty.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, right. cousin fucking, loving boats, booze, music, a lot of things like that along the way. Having other people raise your children, having a whole bunch of children. There's a lot of
pussy
examples.
pierced probably too.
There's a lot of examples. So we wanted to know, and we're not looking for content over here. We want to know if you thought of anything that fits in that Venn diagram where fancy and trash overlap.
I thought of two. Two came to mind immediately. One is tax evasion.
Right. Yeah, that's good.
You got your under the table worker, and then like people like Jeff Bezos to just figure out how to not pay any taxes or whatever with accounting tricks, or Donald Trump or whatever. But yeah, I feel like it's really like the people in the middle that are paying the taxes, Yeah. And then the other one was drugs.
Yeah.
I feel like nobody does more drugs than like super wealthy people. They're they're just doing all this cocaine or now like psychedelics in Silicon Valley, and it's really annoying because they make San Francisco is a perfect example of this. Like people trying to make laws to drug test people for supportive housing, public housing. But then they themselves do so many drugs,
sometimes the same drugs.
Yeah.
So a couple of things on that front. First of all, we talked about drugs before. We also talked about like rehabs, like the difference between like rich people rehabs and poor people rehabs and stuff, and how stark they are. But also,
poor people rehab is going to church.
What you just said about how like, they're all on drugs. When I only know this because I used to work for the federal government. That was my day job when I got out of college. I worked for the Department of Energy. And I always thought it was bullshit even then that we got, and yes, I had been a weed smoker in college and whatever, but we got drug tested randomly. And the whole time I was like going to the union rep and all these people and being like, this shit's unconstitutional. Just so you know.
It is. You're searching someone's body.
Right. Right. I was like, if your boss showed up to your house and said, hey, thanks for working with us. Step outside, you and your family. We're going to go through your house and your drawers and everything you got in there. You would tell them to go fuck themselves, but for some reason they can do that with our veins and that's bullshit. And I was trying to make this argument at the time, up to and including trying to like build an actual case, which is how I know that there's a Supreme Court case where they ruled that only specifically Congress people, like U.S. politicians, like Congress people and representatives, cannot be randomly drug tested.
Can't believe it.
Because that is unconstitutional. But that ruling don't apply to anyone but them. And it's like, that's the type of shit that's
on both sides though.
Annoying.
So I don't think it's too political. It's just pointing out a same. You know what I mean? It's about politics, but it's not political. You know what I mean? Like,
it's just both sides love drugs, but one side are like immune to the repercussions.
Exactly.
So one side gets locked up for being a nonviolent drug offender and loses their family and their job and everything they've ever had for 30 years. And the other side serves in the U.S. Senate for 36 years and that. And
I'm fine with the person doing drugs if they're actively like voting on legislation that would make that nonviolent offender not go to prison. It's the other ones that piss me off. That's where I'll get fit. That's where I'll get political. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't give a fuck what Bernie be doing. You know what I mean?
I feel like Bernie probably almost never has done drugs. He's just like, why? Why would I?
I think he takes gummies.
Maybe.
I don't know.
He's
high on soup, baby.
Yeah.
So like
high on soup.
But there definitely is this idea that like drugs should be something that's like a privilege for the rich. Like, I was thinking that kind of like the most like pertinent example is Hunter Biden. Like he does drugs. He's been in trouble for drugs, and his dad luckily is very compassionate to him. But Joe Biden also, I think, wrote the like a lot of the crime bill that like is putting people away for like years and years for drugs, for crack, to have like a harsher penalty than cocaine. And it's like, okay, well, where's the compassion for users who are not Hunter Biden?
They did. They're trying to do some shit with like at least weed, which
I
think
they still doesn't find what you're saying. Schedule 3 or something. It doesn't make it legal.
Which that's such a long time coming. But
I can't stand when other people say this. Yet I'm gonna say it. at least we're starting somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, because just like if you like when I was a kid, I never understood it. But like when you actually like start reading into legislation, you understand the political machinations of things. You're like, oh, you literally can't just fix something overnight. I mean, fuck, like you just can't. Like at least weed, for the love of God. And I really do think that if you polled 100 people where I live in 1999 and you asked them about weed, and then you polled the same 100 people in 2019, we'll say 20 years later, they're all alive, I would say 75% of those people's opinion changed.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Easy.
I really would. Like even conservative, like whatever. I think that opinion has changed, and like I do feel that we're like living in a time where like the law actually doesn't in any way reflect the majority of the people.
I think
You
most
know?
people are fine with weed now. Like
They
my
are.
friend's a 60-year-old mom, maybe even older than 60. She lives in Georgia, and
Me too. Where's she at?
she's outside of Atlanta. I don't remember which suburb.
Well, I'm 2 hours from Atlanta, so you know she's probably in Marietta, something like that.
But she got cancer. Unfortunately, she's okay.
Oh, I'm so
now.
sorry.
But then during her chemotherapy, she got into weed to help with the pain of chemotherapy. Had the cops, I think, found out. I don't know if it was in the car or something like that, but she got pulled over basically, and they found out that she had marijuana on her. They threw this like 6-year-old cancer patient into jail.
Jesus Christ.
And then she had to go through like a whole really expensive, like many $1,000 trial, and they brought like the full book down on her, and now she is like super radicalized, like anti-jail, pro marijuana legalization, anti-cop.
Well, that's a piece of shit
like
cop,
and this is like a freaking old conservative lady.
Like technically that cop did by the book what he was supposed to do, but like can you imagine being a person and it being a 60-something-year-old who has cancer and you're like, gotta take you in? Like, what
it's
the
insane
fuck? When they let so many people fucking go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why it's I think like a lot of people who become cops are just very drunk on their own power.
Yeah. For sure. Now the weed thing is wild because people are like, there was decades and decades of hardcore propaganda, reefer madness, and all this shit that made people think that weed was making them lose their minds.
That movie's hilarious.
People hated it.
So funny. I saw it once.
In recent years, it's people like that lady, like older people are coming around, and I don't think they really care anymore. And what's funny about that to me is like I'm 38, and like I fully support weed reform legislation, all that, and always will. But I'm like almost terrified of weed.
I never do it.
I had the exact opposite experience of her. I'm
about to
like,
right now.
I'm like that shit. I tell you, it makes me lose my mind for,
but not to kill nobody.
I know.
Maybe to kill yourself.
But exactly.
It makes me commune. Panic. Yeah.
Panic. You commune with the void, right? So it's like I'm in this weird position of like, I don't even like the shit, but I'll defend it to my death because I think it's ridiculous and arcane and regressive that it's still treated the way it is. But me personally, I'm like, fuck that shit. It's just hard.
Same. I feel exactly the same way. I haven't smoked weed or eaten it in years and years because I hate the way that it feels.
But see, I feel like that. I think a huge part of that is I don't think our generation, the three of us, the shit we're fucking with now, weed wise, it ain't the same thing.
No, that's the first thing they get.
They've been in there fucking futurizing this shit for 20 years. Making it chopping it up as they can. And it's like, y'all need to chill out. Need to rein that shit in.
Hey, that's why, dude, I got throw them in there. Our boys at Mood. Our boys at Mood.
No, they're all right. They
figured it out, son. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's like the shit that I'm used to. Not that is an advertiser of ours, and it did just fit here organically. Well, listen, man, we can't end on a bummer of cancer patient mama going to jail and shit. So I'm gonna ask you one more question, then we're gonna let you go. And I'm not gonna lead you or anything. I'm just gonna ask you this question straight up. Okay. Do you think and then I'm gonna share a clip. The clip's just funny. Do you think that squirrels have the ability to love?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, now let's watch this clip. Hold on. No. Fuck you. All right, we're watching the clip. Watch the clip.
All right, fine.
bless me.
Oh,
Bless me. Oh dear. Someone's outside my garage.
Is that the whole goddamn clip? Okay.
It.
Y'all are anthropomorphizing the shit out of that squirrel right now. That's what you're doing. So I wanted to, just so you know, what he's done is he's drawn you into a years-long argument.
I didn't lead her at all.
I know. But I would like to specify it a little further and say romantic love.
Romantic love, no.
Romantic, stinky butt fucking in the tree love. They do it. They love it.
So when you said love, yes, you like familial, a mother and her children type of love.
Well, I think what you meant. Most mammals, probably all mammals, can feel affection. You know,
spit that shit.
Okay,
but
spit that shit.
Yeah, and so I would
spit
say
that shit. Woo, woo, woo. I feel boy.
I mean, I have cats and they're obsessed with me.
Hey,
they love
my
me
cats.
so much. To me, it almost makes me feel narcissistic that I need to have these things that think that I'm the world, let
me ask you this, and I want you to know this is coming from another cat person. We got 2 cats in my house. We worship them. I love these fucking cats. I'm a huge cat person. Everybody says if you die, your cat's gonna eat your face, right? That's gonna happen. What do you think about that? You think that's bullshit, or you think it's a sign of respect in the cat world or admiration, or how do you feel about that part of it?
I don't know, because hopefully I don't die in such a way that my body is just hanging out forever. You know?
But it happens to a lot of us, So are you saying you don't think your cats would eat your face? Because I love my cats with the whole world, and I assume they would probably eat my face, because I that aspect of cats kind of hits for me, frankly.
I don't know. They probably would. I mean, I doubt if I was rotting. Yeah, they probably would eat me. I'm sure. Yeah.
Right. But there's another way to explain that. I have. We could be here for another 2 hours if we wanted to, but
good.
Me and him got into a huge argument on an early episode of this podcast about him saying he thought that squirrels had families and they love each other and they remember each other's deaths, and they had all, and he even said they're capable of romantic love and all this.
It's because I found out, and here's the reason, Kate, just so we have all the facts. I found out that squirrels were extremely territorial, so that the squirrels that are in my family's yard, it's very possible that their great grand squirrels dating back to the Civil War were also in my yard. They stay in the same fucking tree. And I was like, that feels very familial. And then, and I didn't say nothing other than that. And then Trae looked at me, hold on, shut the fuck up. And then Trae looked at me, direct quote, and he goes, "Are you fucking retarded? You think that squirrels?" He goes, hold on. You think that squirrels love based on that? And I said, I didn't even say anything like that. I just said they're in the same spot.
Lying.
And he said, I can see it in your fucking face right now that you think that squirrels have feelings. You fucking liberal piece of shit. You're the fucking reason we're in this state we're in, you motherfucker. We lost to Cuba because of you.
I think that a lot of people are so enamored with animals and stuff, who I think should be treated with the utmost respect and humanely and all that, just to be very clear. I think that a lot of people convince themselves that nature, or especially we're concerned squirrels and cute animals and stuff, that it's like a fucking Disney movie, when I think it's more like a heavy metal song. I think that it's ruthless and unforgiving, and they don't have the privilege of being able to worry about these types of feelings or things. And that's why you see them eating their own young and fucking, or I showed you that he showed you a clip of that squirrel doing this, and that means something. Well, I showed him a clip of a rabbit by its friend on the road that got ran over.
About rabbits.
And then the rabbit starts sodomizing its friend's corpse at the end.
Oh my God.
Because that's how it really works. I just think that y'all have Disney-fied and romanticized nature way too much, is my only argument for the whole thing. I think it's way more hardcore than y'all act like it is.
But
pets are kind of different.
Humans, though, do
all those things.
Humans do horrible things.
Worst thing.
And we love.
Yes.
Squirrels ain't got no fucking nuclear bombs they've launched over
True.
the
They
fucking
also ain't
world
been
to
to the
take-
goddamn moon. They also didn't found the home box
Well,
office.
hold
all right.
on.
They also
hold on
didn't.
now.
They also
They've
didn't.
never
went
been
to
on a
the moon before
cruise.
we did,
They never been on a
motherfucker.
cruise. They
Dogs
never
went to
right.
the moon before we did, motherfucker.
because we
What the
sent
fuck?
them there. Like, I'm saying, yeah, dude, humans are awful in so many ways, but they're also phenomenal and incredible in so many ways. And I think that's true in nature too, but in a different way. I think people apply a human perspective to the way animals and nature works, and that annoys me. And that's at the root of this argument that we have drug you into, Kate, for which I apologize.
Trae grew
I
up
see
poor and
both
sad.
sides. I'll be a good liberal on this and be like,
Okay.
well, both sides have a point here, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Kate,
Yeah.
we've
Two
loved.
things can be true. Yeah.
That's so true. Kate, we've loved having you here so much.
This is so fun. Thank you guys.
You've got-
No,
hey,
thank you for being
you've got-
Corey. Hold on, Corey. Kate, tell plug your shit. Tell people.
That's
how to
what I
find
was
you.
about to say.
Well, fuck you. I
Um,
wanted to do it. You wrote the questions. I want to do this. Sorry, Kate.
Okay.
We're on one now.
I'm touring all over the summer. And I post my dates on Instagram, Kate.Willett, Willett.
Two T's.
Yeah, 2 T's. And I have a new special out called Loopholes, and it's on Amazon and Apple TV, and it has a lot of jokes in it. About
It's on
this
Apple
topic.
TV.
Yeah, both.
I'm gonna watch that tonight.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Yeah, I think it's a fun watch. It was named Pace, one of Pace Magazine's top 10 comedy specials of this year, if I'm gonna
Nice.
That's
brag.
that New York City salsa, ain't it?
Yeah, so go watch that and follow me on Instagram.
All
Hell
right.
yeah.
Thank you very
Kate.
much, Kate. Sorry
Thank
we
you.
badgered you with bullshit for an hour
Well,
and 15
now I
minutes.
want
But
to
thank you for
go
being
see
here.
a little squirrel. I love them. I
Yeah,
can love them.
Well, they're here in my backyard, fucking all my shit up all day long. So
in Burbank. Yeah.
yes, you come over here and take them with you if you want. But anyway,
Yeah.
thanks for being
Thanks,
here, Kate.
Kate.
We
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Appreciate you.
All right, y'all. Hope I hit for you, hit for us. It was a fun time, right, Kate? How great is she? That was lovely.
The best.
Appreciate Kate for being here on the show. Now, before we go, we are going to do a couple of air mails. Joe, hit me
Well,
with them.
Well, we have to. I saw this one right off the bat, and I had to say, well, I got to read this one. This is from our buddy Chuck Cora over at Appalachia. You know, he didn't mention that, but you know our buddy Chuck Cora.
Of course,
at
yeah, they
Appalachia.
hit over there. I like
Absolute
Appalachia.
fantastic podcast that everybody should be listening to, especially if you were in Appalachia. Subject line: things I thought were fancy that aren't. Chuck says, Airheads of State. A few things came to mind when you asked on your most recent episode about things listeners thought were fancy as a kid, but actually are not. Here's his list. God damn, this is good. Sunroofs on cars.
Yep. Hey, I tell you right now, Chuck's not alone in that. He's not alone in that because I was just the other day, I was listening to some old Nelly because I'm a child of the late 90s and 2000s.
Nelly
so
hit so
I
hard.
love Nelly.
That run he went on?
In the song,
Tell me who touched it.
in the
50?
song Pimp Juice,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe is from Sweatsuit, I think.
It's
Although
from Sweatsuit.
Okay, all right. But anyway, in the song Pimp, I don't know, it might be from the one before that, in between
No, it's
that
from
and Country
Sweatsuit.
Grammar. But anyway, in the song Pimp Juice, he's got as he puts it, a bitch in his car.
Yep.
And they're in his car, and he says something like, push the button, leave it alone. Ho, see, you can't believe it's going back on its own.
Mhm.
Woo, that's how they do it, baby. Every day
Mhm.
like this, 7 days. Yeah. And that's just a sunroof. That's all he's
Right.
talking about is the sunroof. He's like, can you even believe this shit? How fancy this shit is? I got a sunroof in my car. Push the button. You can't even believe it. It goes back on its own.
And
So,
this is
Chuck,
not a
you're in
race
good
thing.
company.
I was
all
about
right?
to say, because this is not a race thing, but like so many of the good rap that we heard came from someone who all of a sudden came into a lot of money.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like this makes so much sense. That there
Bro.
would be like a sunroof. That's the shit.
If we could somehow get into routinely interviewing rappers on this show, it would,
I would
hit
love
so
it.
hard because they are like,
Hey,
they are this show. Rappers are this show, the theme of this show. The core
we got a
of this
couple in
show.
our phones. We got to holler at them.
Yeah, we need to try to make that need to make that happen.
We sure do. The second thing on his list, which I agree with, ordering a meal instead of the buffet at a buffet restaurant.
Okay.
That's so good.
What's so funny to me personally about that is I have never in my life. Like that's
me neither.
I'm such trash that's never even occurred to me.
Hell no. You're
You know
supposed to get everything. This might be all the calories I get this week, motherfucker.
Right.
Let's go.
So
But
I think he might just be right about that. I mean, of
he
course,
is right.
Real fancy people would never be caught dead in a buffet. I'm
no,
assuming,
but dude, no. I remember like when we used to go to Golden Corral when I was a kid as like a church thing, and like one of the deacons or something would be like, actually, I'll have the hamburger steak with onions. I used to remember thinking like, so you just gonna eat one thing. You just gonna eat one thing. You go
right.
Wait. And it's the same price though.
You know
it's the same price.
Right.
Yeah, and it was the same price. So like I get that shit. Those weird gazing balls that people had on their lawns. I had to look the actual term up because my dad always referred to them as just shiny balls. I think I know what he's talking about.
I don't have a clue. Gazing balls on a person's yard.
Look it up real quick. Look it up real quick.
What? Shiny balls?
No, they're called gazing balls. He actually said they're called gazing balls. Yeah.
Buddy, you got me. You go ahead. You and Chucker.
It ain't coming up
on this one. No, I mean, it's coming. I don't know what the fuck this is. This is like fancy orbs.
Are you sharing it?
Oh, you want me to share it?
Well, yeah, motherfucker.
Okay, all right. Well, I Googled gazing balls, and this is what came up. I don't know what the fuck that is. What is that?
Oh, see, that looks different.
Crystal balls in a garden somewhere?
Yeah, you've never seen something like that?
No, never in my life.
See, I have too.
Never in my life.
And what's really funny about that is now
they do look fancy,
but I never see. Now I remember them, but I never considered them fancy. But here's the reason: I knew the people who had them. Right. And I was like, that's clearly some trash shit because it was my grandma.
Okay.
I mean? Yeah, it was like no. And by the way, not my granny Bane, who I like always shine on. My dumbass bitch, whore, motherfucking Patricia ass bitch.
Not hitting granny. Yeah,
not hitting granny. And then the last part, he said. Adidas cologne. it's
cologne.
Great.
Cologne's a good one because I don't know about you. Who made Cool Water? You remember Cool Water?
Oh yeah, Snoop Dogg rapped about it. I got my and Cool Water cologne.
Was that like Mark Echo or something? Or fucking,
yeah. I got my. God damn it!
Cool
I got my baby blue socks.
No, that's
cool
by Davidoff.
Davidoff. Yeah,
they made Cool Water.
Hold on.
Like that's an example of like when I was a kid, I thought Cool Water and like Aqua di Gio.
Me too.
I thought were the fanciest things on the market, but they absolutely were not.
No, they were the trashiest ones.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Hold on just a second. I gotta find these
trash people trying to front as being fancy, fucked with Cool Water and Aqua di Gio and some of the other ones.
It's in Lottie Dottie. That's it.
His cover of Lottie Dottie. Rappers should do more of that, by the way.
I woke up around 10 o'clock in the morning, gave myself a stretch up a morning yawn, and went to the bathroom to wash up. I threw some soap on my face and put my hands up on the cup and said, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the top dog of them all? There was a rubble double. 5 minutes it lasted. The mirror said, you are, you conceited bastard. That's true. That's why we never have no beef. So I slipped off my khakis and my gold leaf. Use oil of Olay because my skin gets pale. Then I got the file for my fingernails. I'm true to the style on my behalf. I put the bubbles in the tub so I can take a bubble bath. Clean, dry was my body and hair. I threw on my brand new doggy underwear. For all the bitches I might take home, I got the Johnson baby powder and Cool Water cologne. That was it.
So
sorry, I thought that it came sooner, and I didn't mean to rap that much.
That hit, and I think that'll hit for people. But that's a cover, right?
I didn't. Is that like
that's not a Snoop Dogg song, and I think that rappers
is that
should
like
do
Cool
more
in the
of
Gang
that.
or something?
It's Slick Rick. It's a Slick Rick song.
Oh, word! I didn't know that.
And Snoop Dogg covered it, and I've always thought
me and you talked about this.
I've always thought that rappers should do more covers.
Kendrick doing Eminem. Oh my god!
Because he did change it some.
Yeah, he changed the style.
Just so you know, in the Slick Rick version, he don't say Cool Water. He says Polo, my Polo cologne.
Right, because times had changed.
So like he did switch some of the lyrics up and stuff. And so I've always thought that rappers should do more because covers are ubiquitous in the music world, but not in rap really. But Snoop Dogg did a Slick Rick cover all those years ago. And I feel like that's kind of almost the only one.
Imagine Kendrick Lamar doing White America by Eminem, but changing it a little bit
to like his perspective.
His perspective, that would be fire.
You should tweet at him and try to get him to do that.
Have I not just named the best one? Have I not just named the best example you've ever heard?
That's a great idea. That would hit so hard.
Last thing on airmail, because we have gone way over, and we're not apologizing. You're getting more show. Subject line: President Washington leading the Army. Hey, gang, it's your resident AP U.S. history teacher here with a, actually moment of teach-splaining. I knew as soon as I saw the goddamn subject line, this is about to be some shit. And by the way, I'll go ahead and say, I think this is something I got wrong because...
No.
Oh, shut the fuck up, bitch. You get shit wrong all the time. Hold on now.
Well, I'm not the one who ventures that often into the realm of history.
Right. You're not brave.
That's sure.
Yeah.
That's your department.
I go out there every week. I don't give a fuck if I'm wrong.
I know.
I'm going to entertain these people with some facts that I made up in my motherfucking mind.
That's all fair enough. Let's hear what you got wrong.
Sorry, dude. You made me rap that Snoop Dogg and I got some fucking Crip in me or something. I want to stab you. Last week, when talking about kings, you mentioned that kings used to commonly lead their armies into battle. This, of course, came with mixed results. King Richard III got greased at the Battle of Bosworth Field in the 15th century, and then his body got found under the parking lot of a grocery store in 2012.
I remember that.
I don't.
I remember when that happened, yeah. They were digging up a parking lot in the UK, and at the time, it was like, this is some England shit right here. There's like digging up a parking lot and be like, damn, here's an old king. Y'all seen this king lately?
Holy shit. That happening. He continues, a couple of presidents actually have gotten in the mix during some conflicts in American history. Some accounts say James Madison hopped on a horse and was helping to rally troops while the British were sacking Washington during the War of 1812. I always forget that we had a sequel. Leaving his wife, like nobody ever talks about the fact that it was a part 2. You know what I mean? And clearly not like a Kill Bill part 2, because that was the hit.
Well, I was about to say it's because sequels normally don't hit, and I feel like that one mostly didn't hit. You know, it's kind of a footnote. The originator is the real one. Yeah, I'm assuming it's going to end at some point with H.W. Bush, because I think he was legit in that way. Keep going.
So he says the British were sacking the Washington during the War of 1812. This is James Madison. He left his wife to run through a fully inflamed White House to rescue all the artwork. Gay. But your specific example, he didn't say that, I did. But your specific example came from the show. George Washington actually also came to pass once. In 1791, the new federal government passed an excise tax on whiskey, which was the primary revenue stream for the federal government for most of its history until income tax became a permanent thing in 1913. This did not hit for farmers in rural areas, I bet, many of whom would distill their surplus corn, barley, etc. to make whiskey, and in the most remote areas where there weren't a lot of banks, they'd also use it as currency. Attempts by the federal government to collect the tax didn't go very well. Some especially pissed off farmers in western Pennsylvania even shot up the house of a tax collector one time and forced the guy to flee the area. That's a good boy right there. Yeah. Some of the farmers even tried to dust off the old no taxation without representation battle cry from the Revolution, but the federal government was like, no, fuck that. This was passed by your elected representatives. You got to pay. So President Washington personally led an outfit of about 13,000 militiamen from several states to go into western Pennsylvania to put down this insurrection that became known as the Whiskey Rebellion. Trae, I swear to God, you go look at the doc. The Whiskey Rebellion's in there, and I've never talked about it. The Whiskey Rebellion. Then in parentheses, he says, regulators, mount up. Mm-hmm. One of my students yelled this year when I talked about this in class. I love that so fucking much.
I'm the idea that kids today, the idea that kids today have the cultural reference of regulators mount up swells my heart with pride, because I would not have thought that.
Okay, let's play a game called Is This Racist or Not? Is it wrong that I hope that he's black?
It's not. No, I don't think that's wrong at all. There's also, just so you know, by the way, we're talking about Snoop Dogg, that being a cover song.
Yeah.
Regulators mount up. Do you know what that's from?
Yes, I do. fuck.
So
hold on. It's from the movie.
Yes.
It's from the movie.
It's from a white movie.
Not Young Guns. That's
it is Young Guns.
It is Young Guns. I fucking knew it. Yeah, It is Young Guns because at the very beginning he's like, and we got any fucking say the line.
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember the exact line.
It is Young Guns.
Regulators mount up because the Young Guns was my shit when I was a kid. So
it's Emilio Estevez who says that shit on the track. It's Emilio Estevez.
So was obviously the song Regulator, but I don't give a fuck either way. Whether that kid in his class is referencing the rap song or Young Guns the movie, either way, it hits for me real hard. Like,
honestly, it's wilder if he's doing Young Guns the movie. I think.
Yeah, for sure, it's wilder. But either way,
it's Emilio Estevez, I think, that says it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, that's one of those movies. It's kind of a Brat Pack movie. Where
by the way, can I tell you,
stacked with all these actors you all recognize when they were younger, and I loved it when I was a kid. I bet it don't hold up.
Yes, it does. Yes, it fucking does.
Oh, you watched it recently?
Yeah, and it's the reason that I watched it recently, which is why I know that's where Regulators came from.
Yeah,
like when I watched it the first time, I had never heard Regulators. You know what I mean? And so I watched that movie recently because with my son, I'm trying to go back and watch all these like childhood movies and shit. Like, dude, it's ridiculous. But like, if the point of a movie is to have you sit there the whole time and enjoy it, then it holds up. You know what I mean? Because I enjoyed it the whole fucking time. Like, it shouldn't have won an Oscar. It shouldn't have won any of that. But like, I never once thought,
well, now I'm gonna have to watch it. That was one of my favorite movies as a kid.
It's great,
but I haven't watched it as an adult.
But you get
because in my head I was like, "This ain't gonna hold up." Now that you've said that, I need to go back and watch it.
Well, bro, nostalgia is a hell of a drug.
Yes, right.
You know what I mean? But like, I'm saying, if you go into it with the context, I guarantee, even if you come out going, "It don't hold up," I guarantee you don't turn that shit off. You know what I mean?
So,
anyways, where were we at? The Whiskey Rebellion. The farmers basically shit their pants and ran away before Washington even showed up. So there was no battle, as it were, but it proved the new government could enforce its own laws, which is a pretty important benchmark to hit. Love you guys. Keep making us laugh. Stay fancy, and you can use my name. Cheers, Alex. Well, thank you, Alex.
Yeah,
that is the last.
Thank you, Alex. So I said I thought you were going there because just so everybody knows, George H.W. Bush does not hit for me, but I've always heard my whole life that he was a fighter pilot in World War II and got shot down, I think, in the Pacific and survived the encounter. So I thought he would. So I mean, you know, he was enough. But also, I feel like somebody who's on the front lines early on and goes on to be the president or leader of the country is a little different than what we were talking about. Which is
no. He was already president then. He was already president in this situation.
I'm talking about George H.W. Bush.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
No. You're right.
So that's what the guy meant. The guy meant. So when he was talking about James Madison and George Washington,
they was president.
They were president.
They did that shit.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that's my fault. Now listen, I failed to understand that.
Now listen, man. Me and you had this big conversation where it's like, you know, all right, let me stand on business. I know we don't get political on this show. Fuck George W. Bush, whatever. But there's sometimes when you need, like, there's certain presidents where you're like, their whole presidency, I don't like them, but they were the right man for this one particular moment. Or they at least, like, if you go, what does a president seem like? They fit that fucking bill. You know what I mean? And like with George, and this is me being an asshole, as much as I hate George W. Bush, every time I fucking see him throw that fucking heater down the middle at the Yankee game.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what, man? In that fucking moment, fuck Reagan. But when he was like, Mr. Gorbachev tearing down that wall, I'm like, that's a fucking president, bro. That's what we needed.
We talked about that exact thing not all that long ago, 3 or 4 episodes ago. And I do agree with you, but also like in this war discussion part we're having right here, I'm talking about his daddy, H.W. Bush.
Yeah,
was the fighter pilot, not him. He was a draft dodger.
He was a drunk draft dodger. Actually, I think that I could be wrong, and this is what we do on the show is I just say I think. I'm pretty sure that George W., the one most current to us, the 9/11 one, I'm pretty sure that he went to the Navy for like a second, like just long enough for it to kind of count and then got pulled out. I think. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know he fucking finessed
wasn't
it
a nom.
in some way or another. Yes,
Yeah.
I know, because I remember John Kerry ran against him in 2004, and that was part of the whole thing.
Dude,
Kerry
back
was
in the
actually
day,
in the
you
military.
had to be in the fucking military,
right?
Like you
Which
had to be.
Honestly, like I kind of always thought was sort of fair.
Yeah, man. It's what we. Yeah, I'm with you, dude.
Anyway, all right. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate it. It's been a long ass episode.
Hey, it has, but guess what, Trae? Little House of the Dragon season 2 is coming back, bitches, because the show is about to premiere. Me and my sister, Lady Kirby, y'all know her. We're doing a immediate reaction, which means that Sunday when that motherfucker comes out, we is clicking record as soon as it's over, and that bitch will be out Monday. After that, we'll decide when the episodes come out, but be excited for that. And Trae, tell them where you gonna be, boy.
Next week, and then on Sunday,
I'm hammered.
Yeah, that's right. You hitting. I got California shows. I'll be in Orange County at the Brea Improv. Then I'll be in Oxnard at Levity Live, and then I'll be at the San Jose Improv after that, doing a whole little California run, which is fun for me. So come see us. And then after that, the next shows are Tulsa, Oklahoma for a whole weekend. So I'll see you out there. TraeCrowder.com. Check it out.
All right, and for me, guys, by the way, and stay on the lookout for these tickets. I'll put them in the links when I have them. Milwaukee, Wisconsin on July the 6th. Muncie, Indiana on Monday, July 8th. Hazard, Kentucky on Tuesday, July 9th. Memphis, Tennessee on Thursday, July 11th. And Fayetteville, Arkansas on Saturday, July 13th. That is where I will be. So y'all check it out. Also go to bonuscorey.com and go to patreon.com/Trae Crowder. Listen to all of the podcasts in the Skewniverse. Well read, Gravy Baby, Weekly Skews, and more importantly, stay fancy, motherfuckers. Skew. Here's Lydia Lovelace.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Royalty and rednecks are alike. They both like cutting and picking fights. Biscuits and baked beans where they don't belong. Sit on down with Corey and Trae and learn some fancy shit today. We'll laugh a little even when they're wrong. They'll take you to a magical place where if you call someone a cut, nobody cares. They keep it debonair at putting on airs, putting on airs, putting on airs.